Laurence Gilman is the former assistant general manager of the Vancouver Canucks, NHL executive with the Leafs, Jets, Coyotes. I was off my game when he joined us last week, so I will be better here today, Gilman.
Well, as I said, everybody has an off day, Matt.
And that was quite an off one for me. What'd you make of the game last night?
Well, I only watched about the first period of it. I mean, I like the way the team has competed. You know, they've lost games this year, particularly late, you know, on that road trip in particular, that I thought they competed well. But there's a significant segment of their forward group that has been in AHL level, for half a dozen of them or four of them were AHL players. Like, that's a lot to ask for players to play at that high level and play mistake-free hockey. So overall, I think I'd be pleased with the level of competition of the team. I think they're showing heart and they're showing determination. That's good.
We were talking about this yesterday, Laurence. Is that a commentary on how they feel about their coaches?
Probably, I would say so. I mean, they definitely do not look like a team that has quit on their coaching staff, and we've all seen that, many times, or quit on the coach, so to speak. But no, I think that, again, the effort level is good. If you're managing the team, and you're where you are at this point in the year, you're evaluating the players, you're also evaluating the staff, but you have to be happy with the fact that they are playing. It shows that, their give-a-care meter, as they call it, is high. And that means that there's connection between the players and the coaches.
I think we've asked you about Pius Suter before, but we are forced to ask about him again. And I think everybody's fairly clear. Like, Pius Suter's not winning any Rocket Richards or Art Ross trophies anytime soon. He is, I think, what we see this year at best. Like, I don't think there's more development of Pius Suter, and I don't mean that to drag him at all.
How dare you ceiling him?
I am putting a ceiling on him. And this has been a spectacular year for Pius Suter. The question is, and this goes for a lot of UFAs that are coming off of great years, but, do you force yourself to pay for that guy? Now, he's under your roof right now. You've got the first licks at him in free agency versus the rest of the league. Do you just have to, given there's a dearth of centers out there, do you just have to pay up to Pius Suter because you can't afford to go shopping for two more centers, never mind one more center?
Well, that's a good question. I have commented on Pius Suter a couple times during our times together, and obviously I'm a big fan. He's a Swiss Army knife player who has a great deal of utility, and he's what we would have referred to in our regime as a prototypical seventh forward, meaning a guy who slots in probably as your third line center, but yet has the skill and the capability to move up into the top six in various roles, whether that's down the middle or playing on the wing. When you add to that the utility of killing penalties and some power play capabilities, this is a valuable player. And it is not a great year for free agency. And if you have this player, it takes off a lot of pressure on that need to go out and find the quote unquote second center. And maybe Philip Hedl, when he comes back, is the beneficiary of the pressure below being taken off by having Pius Suter in the lineup. So yes, I would be looking to sign this player, and he's going to get paid. Like, does he have 24 goals at this point?
24 now.
Two-way center. Someone's going to pay him. And, it's always infinitely cheaper to re-sign your own players than it is to go replace them in the market.
So $3.5 million was what maybe at the beginning or middle part of the year we thought, okay, that'll probably get it done for Pius Suter. He's having a nice season. That number's antiquated now. Like, it's not going to be 3.5. Can you chomp off $5 million a season for Pius Suter? Like, you say he's going to get paid by the rest of the league. He's got to get paid by the Canucks too. So, like, is $5 million make your skin crawl, or do you just bite the bullet?
Well, it's a lot. I mean, ideally, you'd like to see him closer to 4 than 5, but you might not have that luxury.
Yeah,
and you have the benefit of having the player with you now, and he's had a good year, and it's been a good, opportunity for him. He's made the most of it. But there's also something to be said for staying in a good position. And, a good contract negotiator uses that to their advantage. And, I would be, if I were negotiating that deal, I'd be trying as hard as I could to get him as close to 4 as possible. But, the guy's performed, right? Like, he's borne the risk of injury and of poor performance, and he's answered everything with flying colors. So he is going to get paid. And, Would I gulp at 5? I don't know. I'd like to play it out first, but you might have to late June.
Swiss Army knife. Do you see what he did there?
Pun intended.
And the other thing is, he's a primary penalty killer here, fellas, on a team that has had an exceptional penalty kill unit, especially since Christmas. So
sneaky quick release scoring too. It's been a very impressive.
I mean,
year.
if he could skate, you would say
Oh my
absolutely,
gosh,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's the skating sometimes hold him back, but he's a crafty, high IQ hockey player. I like him a lot.
Well, you can overcome your lack of foot speed with your brain.
Yeah,
and he clearly has done that this year. He's a shifty player. He's smart. He's greasy. He knows where to go, find open ice, and that's why he's been as productive as he has.
Let's stay at the center ice position, but talk about the opposition last night, Laurence. Blake and I had a good discussion yesterday. Look, it's going to be very difficult to trade for a second-line center. It's going to be very difficult to file a successful offer sheet for a second-line center. So if you are on the UFA market, are you doing your shopping in Dallas, Texas, where Matt Duchene and Jamie Benn and Michael Granlund, and I realize the last two aren't pure centermen, but have played in the middle in the past. I would just, and all older players, I would just like to get your sense on what you think of those guys and how much they have left as they approach, or in some cases are in their mid-30s.
Well, Duchene is the best one to go get if you're going to rank the three of them. Ben is not a great skater and is really more of a winger than a center iceman. And Granlund, it's not necessarily the number of miles on the car; it's the type of miles. That have been, there's many off-road hard miles that have been driven. Are they, obviously they're capable players. They're anchoring one of the top teams in the Western Conference. And I'd say of all of them, as I said, Duchene is the most left in the tank. I just don't see him coming to Vancouver myself. I see him staying in Dallas. I think, Dallas is a very popular place among NHL players. I mean, for a number of reasons, not the least of which is it's another tax-free jurisdiction, but the quality of life in Dallas is incredibly high. Housing prices are reasonable, and it's a great organization. Tom Goularty and Jim Nill have really run a great organization, great young players there. Like you look at the life a kid like Wyatt Johnston is bringing to the older guys like Duchene and Ben and Granlund, and not to mention Thomas Harley. And they've, I see those players trying to stay in Dallas if they can.
We saw history made on Sunday. I'd like your 2 cents on the Alexander Ovechkin record and where he stands in the annals of NHL history. Is he a Mount Rushmore guy for you?
Well, he has to be. I mean, you don't have that kind of longevity in career and score nearly 900 goals without being considered among, a half a dozen of the best players in the game. And the interesting thing about him is his game has changed over the course of his career, and particularly as he's aged, because he was a freight train as a young player. I mean, he could go right through you. He could, hammer you into the boards. He doesn't do that anymore. He's more of a tactician in terms of setting up at his office, which is essentially the left face-off dot in the offensive zone. But he's a great player, and he still has gas left in his tank as well. I see him, he's over 40 goals at this age. He's not slowing down, and that's another team that's invigorated by good young players. Ryan Leonard, and you're going to have the young Andrew Crystal coming in, from Vancouver. So I don't see him going anywhere either. So he may finish with 1,000 goals by the time all is said and done.
Speaking of their turnaround, Laurence, because a lot here in Vancouver, and I suppose I expect elsewhere in struggling NHL markets this season, have pointed to the Washington Capitals in terms of a quick retool, not having to rebuild, being able to bounce right back off the mat and be a contender. We know some of the trades they made, Kemper for Pierre-Luc Dubois and some others. Is it repeatable? How easy or difficult would it be, to follow the quote-unquote Washington model of retooling?
Well, you have to guess right on multiple, across the platform. I mean, which Washington did. The Chikrin deal turned out to be a pretty good deal for them as well. I mean, they also added Rasmus Sandin from the Leafs, which you're adding to reasonably young defensemen in their prime. It can be done. I mean, they're a testament to the fact that it can be done. But Pierre-Luc Dubois got traded a few times and it didn't work out. It just so happened that as I think we've talked about before, every general manager thinks they can fix what's broken in a player, and he'll come to our system and he'll be better. In Pierre-Luc Dubois' case, that was the fact. That definitely happened. Can the Canucks do it? If Washington can do it, I don't see why the Canucks can't. But you're going to have to make some bold moves and be creative and have a plan and go execute upon it.
Okay, we have to go backwards a little bit here. Errors and omissions on both of you. Just let it slide. Mount Rushmore has 4 faces.
I knew that when I said half a dozen.
Typical NHL hedge.
So totally, we have got to make some hard decisions on the 4 faces. And where I'm going with this is, are we kicking Gordy off the mountain? Is it time to kick Gordy off the mountain? He's the sort of the Father Christmas of hockey, but I think it's time to say goodbye to Gordy on Mount Rushmore.
Hold on. If we're going to kick Mr. Hockey off hockey's Mount Rushmore, are we doing it for Ovechkin, or is Sidney and his 3 Stanley Cup rings and his record 20th season at a point per game not a more deserving?
So first of all, in my mind, there's 3 players that are non-negotiable, and that's Wayne Gretzky, Gordie Howe, and Bobby Orr.
Really? Okay.
So that's my opinion.
So for me, I have 3 non-negotiables.
Same.
They're Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, and Mario Lemieux.
Same here. Yeah.
So I was going to get to that. I don't see Ovechkin or Crosby eclipsing Mario Lemieux at this point. That's just
I'm with you there.
My opinion. So that would be the 4 for me.
Okay.
Not that apropos of nothing, but.
Okay.
No, we
so
needed
he's
to
on
clarify.
your second Mount Rushmore. Like when Trump builds the second Mount Rushmore, because Trump is going to build a second Mount Rushmore for himself. They can be a part of that. Who was your 4th? I'm going Sidney. If I have
again,
to pick
I'm going to
to
be really mean. I'm kicking Howe off. It's Gretzky, Mario, Bobby Orr, and I'm going to put Sidney Crosby there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gosh, I hate it when we agree like that, Blake. What else here? Oh, Laurence. So the Canucks, and look, great win last night, but it is still a longest of long shots. The Canucks could be the only Canadian team to miss the playoffs this year. You have worked in 3 Canadian front offices, Vancouver, Winnipeg, and Toronto. How much do Canadian front office people gauge and look across the country at the other Canadian teams, how they're performing, and would it be an embarrassment to the Canucks?
Does that add to the failures?
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Is it the cherry on top embarrassment if the Canucks are the only Canadian team to miss the Stanley Cup playoffs?
In my experience, it doesn't make a difference. I mean, not making the playoffs is not making the playoffs. The fact that the Calgary Flames might squeak in and get eliminated in the first round and place 4 more games than the Canucks do, I don't think it changes anything. You don't get fired for the other teams making the playoffs and your team doesn't. You get fired for not making the playoffs. Not that anyone's going to lose their job this year necessarily, but it doesn't really matter. People's memories are short. You can come back. Like the Ottawa Senators are riding high now. People forget they didn't make the playoffs for 7 or 8 years prior to this one. So I don't think your measuring stick is the other Canadian franchises.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy for Travis Green, by the way. I know you know Travis and like Travis. I'm quite happy for Coach Green.
Now, the players always play. We've talked about that with regards to tanking before. We know they're going to play hard right till the very end. Maybe a little bit of apathy creeps in late in the season, but they're always in their mind trying. Does it matter to management? At this point, there's not a lot of draft capital to be gained here by playing good or bad. Like it's the mushy middle. It is what it is. But if the Canucks finish 2 points shy versus if they lose out here and finish where they're at right now, does it change the evaluation of management here, this junk time sort of points, whether it's pro or con?
It shouldn't. I think no one, listen, my experience with ownership and their assessment of management is they don't feel better about the fact that you missed the playoffs by 2 points or missed it by 8. With the caveat that if you're a team like Detroit was last year, where you're building, you're building something and you're in your building phase and you miss it by 1 point, that's something that you can use, you can feel good about.
You're progressing. Yes.
But when you're in the boat where the Canucks are, not so much. Like there's no joy to be had by just missing by this much,
Yeah. Okay, last question. Was I better this week?
Yes, you were definitely smoother, more lucid.
Okay.
Definitely on your game again.
Okay, good to know. I yearn
Still
for
missed the playoffs.
I yearn for your approval, Gilman. Thank you for this, Laurence, and we'll catch up next week.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much.